Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Laverne Lewis, TriMet's board president, also the weather girl this morning. Today we have high sun. Tomorrow we are expecting rain at a 60 to 80% chance. So please enjoy the day after the board meeting. Welcome to TriMet's Board of Directors meeting for June 24th, 2026. We gather here today at One Main Place in our lovely TriMet board meeting room for our June board meeting. We are also live streaming on YouTube for those. Welcome to those visitors, viewers that are with us today. Before we proceed, I'd like to call up our elegant, he's not a newsman, but Andrew Wilson, our Chief Safety Officer, for our brief moment with safety.
Well, thanks, Dr. Lewis. Yep, appreciate it. Morning, TriMet Board of Directors and everyone else. We do focus on safety here at TriMet, so I just want to make sure we take a moment to remind you of all the safety features that are in this room. At the back of the room, we do have an AED and a first aid kit. There are people in this room that will respond if you raise your hand in an environment that we need some help. There are two of them back there, our two Director of Safety and Director of Emergency Management. But if there's any life-saving kind of things that need to take place, there are several people in the room that can do that. One of them, Beverly Hermosia from our SRT, who's in here and one of our fabulous members. We do have on the other side of this wall an emergency exit. If there is an emergency, we will guide folks down the staircase out in front of the Starbucks, which is just outside across the street, and so we will lead you in that direction. That's our staging area in case we have an event here today, which hopefully we won't, but it's good to know that there's a plan. So just want to remind everybody of that, but I also want to give a quick moment about the weather. Similarly, I'm kind of channeling Dr. Lewis. It's been hot out there. It's not quite as hot today, but it is going to get hot this year, and we're hearing that with all the dryness of this summer, we could actually have some pretty good chances of a bad wildfire season. So real quickly, how can you protect yourself and your loved ones in your home from fire and fire prevention this year? One of the things that I'll point out to everybody, make sure the vegetation and the lawn is mowed well so you don't have a lot of standing fuel outside wherever you're at. Look for leaves under porches that have built up, other kind of things that could light on fire in case it catches an ember. It's a good time to do that right now and cut down on that vegetation. We live in a beautiful part of the world, but it is dry out there. And lastly, and most importantly, when you're talking about fire and prevention, wherever you're at, an apartment building, your house, whatever, it is important to have a plan like we do here in case there's an emergency. So come up with an evac plan, talk to your loved ones about it, make sure you have a plan in case the worst happens and there's a fire in your home or outside. So that is your safety moment for today. I'm going to hand it back to the board. Thanks, Dr. Lewis.
Thank you, Andrew. So we'll begin this morning with our public forum for those who are present and those who have signed up to testify. Also, those that are online. Members of the public who wish to provide testimony but could not be here will be joining us virtually. For all of you that are testifying today, please direct your comments to TriMet and our transit-related services rather than other topics. We also ask that comments be limited to the 3 minutes that we have allotted. There will be an indicator to help you track that time, and hopefully you will comply with the request. It does help because there are others that will follow you, and we want to use the time wisely and show respect to those that follow you. If you're unable to limit your comments, please make sure you do have a written handout you can provide to staff after, and they will make sure the board gets your full comments. Please know that we, the board, definitely appreciates, listens, and understands that testimony from you is highly important, and we request that it will be noted on the record. If appropriate, the general manager may have one of his staff connect with you right after your testimony to assist in any of the concerns in your testimony that you bring to us today. Now I will call up the first two to the table. When you come up, make sure that when you're ready to speak, you turn on your mic. Thank you. If not, one of the assistants will help you. Okay. Our first two community members for testimony is Lisa Reed. Good morning. And Beverly Hermosillo. Thank you. Come on up and go ahead and have a seat.
Hi, I hope I have my mic on. Is it on?
It's
I
on.
wanted to say hi to everybody. My name is Lisa Reed. I live in Northeast Portland off of 82nd in Prescott. I've been a homeowner for 30 years. I bought my house as a single black woman. And TriMet is trying to move the bus stop off of Prescott and 82nd down to my neighbor house. And they would like to put a shelter up there. And that will cause, to me, more homeless people will live in that shelter. If they move it, more trash will be there in that neighborhood, and we will have to clean up our yard because my neighbor has a gate where trash could blow into it, even if TriMet put a trash can there, because I live going on north and south off of 82nd. And then we got to stop over there where I go out and constantly clean up where they live at. If I walk up to 82nd and Sandy, where there are 2 bus stops with shelters, there's a lot of trash there, there's a lot of homeless people there. There is up there, we call for TriMet to come clean it. TriMet said they'd clean it, but it'd be weeks and stuff before they clean up that area. And I just don't want that bus stop to be moved, so we won't have that problem like it is on Sandy and 82nd over there. There are 2 major bus stops where homeless people live. And if they move that bus stop, and excuse my language, I'm gonna be very upset because there'd be rats running around there, it'd be more trash over there. I'm just petitioning to leave that bus stop where it is on that side of 82nd and Prescott. I got control over that area because I tell them, look, you don't sleep over here, you ain't putting no trash over here. I'll run them off. This is neighborhood watch right here, and my neighbors. And if y'all do, I will petition every last one of my neighbors. They say, know your neighbors. I know my neighbors. And I've been there over 30-something years. So I'm just petitioning not to move that bus stop. I don't want to deal with the homeless like we do on Sandy and 82nd, please. I have pictures if y'all need to. I don't know how to send it to you guys, but to show you where there is trash and where will homeless be sleeping at. And I don't want our neighborhood to be destroyed. And this is sometimes how our neighborhood get destroyed by. Oh, my time is up. Okay.
Go ahead and continue. Or when
Okay,
you're
I know they
finished.
want the FF Max 2 to come down there to make more people, you know, 'cause going to Swan Island and going to the mall and stuff. Yes, our 72 bus runs very good. Don't mess with the 72 bus line, please. Leave it like it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Okay. Go ahead and turn off your mic. Just press, excellent. Okay. Beverly?
There we go. How many buttons does it take, right? Okay, hello. My name is Beverly Hermosillo, and I currently serve as the program manager for the safety response team at Portland Patrol. Over the last several years, I've had the privilege of watching this program grow into the very special program it is today. But today I'm here to speak to you about the people behind the success of SRT. I'd like to tell you, with their consent, about a few of the most wonderful humans I've ever had the privilege of meeting. These humans are our SRT's current and past shift supervisors. I'm here to share some of their stories and speak their names with the purpose of publicly providing the recognition that they deserve. The names of these past and present supervisors are Marin Casadega, Lindsay Irwin, Moses Colon, Wynn Benjamin, Summer Smith, Diego Ariano, Nick McGlothery, Alan Simmons, Melissa Kamal, and Joshua Cruz. Every one of them is a human being with a story worth telling and a voice worth being heard. They all started as general members, moved on to field supervisors, and eventually found themselves in the very big roles of shift supervisor. They worked directly with riders, responded to crisis, learned this system, and became leaders through lived experience, mentorship, and a deep commitment to our community. These are not detached managers supervising from a distance. They know their staff, their struggles, and their growth because many of them have lived the same experiences themselves. Former shift supervisor Lindsay Irwin would like you to know that SRT completely changed her life. Before joining the team, Lindsay experienced the life-altering loss of her little brother, Tyler. He was not just her brother, he was her best friend, and with that loss came the deep sense of loss of community and family. Though that can never be replaced, through SRT and our work, she found a new sense of belonging. She wants you to know about the friendships she built, the discipline and structure she gained, and that this was the first work environment that truly provided her with the opportunity to grow. Summer Smith came to us while living in a shelter, unsure of her inability to lead and her worthiness of opportunity. She has come to excel not just as a leader, but as the kind, smart, and competent human she is. She found a version of herself she never knew she would, and has grown in her knowledge that she is worthy not just of opportunity, but of love, acceptance, and community. Marin Casadega, who in 2022 was houseless and riding the max simply trying to stay warm during a snowstorm, was approached by an SRT team. They approached them with compassion, something they said they would never forget. Though that interaction was brief, it became a moment of dignity and kindness they never forgot. Later, after beginning their journey towards recovery, Marin joined the very team that helped them. Today, they are one of the most reliable and competent humans I have ever had the privilege of working with. They want you to know that the type of work and the mission of SRT may have been what brought them to PPI, but it's the people we have worked with that are the reason they stay. This is our management team. And although I do not have the time to tell you all their stories, I want them to know that I carry each one of them in my heart. I know you, I see you, thank you. Some stories just simply are worth being told, and these are only a few. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Beverly. And thank you, thank you, Lisa. Welcome. You are very welcome.
We just want to be safe like you guys.
I'd like to call up Doug Allen. Okay.
Good morning, Dr. Lewis and directors. My name is Doug Allen. I'm the Portland Area Vice President of AORTA, Association of Oregon Rail and Transit Advocates. I'm happy to see you now have a full complement of membership on the board with representation of Clackamas County. And Mayor Denise McGriff, if you're watching remotely or if you're watching on YouTube rerun, I welcome you to the board and wish you well in this heavy commitment to an agency that needs all the help it can get in these troubled times. And thank you for your coming service on the board. And thank you, all the rest of you board members, for your continuing service on the board. Thank you.
That
Thank you, Doug. Yes, thank you, Doug. He's a man of many words, strong words, but kind words, and thank you. Thank you again. Okay, let us now go to those for our virtual testimony. The person's on? No? Okay, keep watch and let me know, since we have a short board meeting, if they arrive or pop on. Is there?
Try again next month.
Okay. With there's no more other members to sign up for testimony, I will close the public forum. Let us now proceed with board report sections of our business meeting. I will begin with asking Director Graham to present the report for the recent meeting on the Committee for Accessible Transportation, CAT. Director Graham.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. So in lieu of the monthly business meeting, we had the CAT luncheon. And it was a slightly scaled-down affair, but it was a really important moment to recognize the great work that TriMet leadership and the Committee on Accessible Transportation do all year long to really ensure that the contributions of people with disabilities and older adults are reflected in TriMet's work in our transportation systems. So the luncheon brought together CAT members, leadership, community members, board members to reflect on the progress that has been made in this last year toward a more accessible transportation system and to recognize the individuals who continue to advance the work. It was wonderful. It was really a wonderful event. And so I just want to compliment everyone who helped to bring everyone together. Throughout the year, CAT members devote countless volunteer hours, really an amazing amount of work. They review projects, they identify barriers, they provide feedback on policy and service changes, participate in operator training. Oh.
That's it.
That's all I can say. Okay, I'm gonna keep talking. Okay. I can finish my sentence, thank you. They conduct accessibility field reviews, and they also ensure that voices of older adults and people with disabilities are incorporated into TriMet's decision processes. And so this luncheon is an opportunity to thank people for all of that work and for everything that they make possible. This year's event also included a presentation of the 2026 Trish Baker Community Advocate Award to Claudia Robertson. And we have honored Claudia here in this meeting as well, but she had decades of service as a disability and older adult advocate, including her leadership as CAT Vice Chair and Co-Chair of the Accessible Transportation Fund Advisory Committee, and she has left a lasting impact on this agency. And it was really wonderful that a couple of her kids could be there to accept the award on her behalf. The event also provides an opportunity to recognize the many TriMet employees, community partners, and advocate whose partnership advances accessibility every day, because it is not just the responsibility of one division within TriMet, it is the responsibility of everyone across TriMet. And I think that that is really reflected in the work that we reviewed and celebrated in the luncheon. The CAT annual report, which is very thorough and a great read, is in your packet, so read it if you have not. It's yes, I was very excited to read it. And then on behalf of the Committee on Accessible Transportation, I would also like to thank TriMet leadership, staff, community partners, and my fellow board members for their continued support of accessibility initiatives and for the celebration that we had at the luncheon. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Graham. Are there any questions, follow-up for Director Graham? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to our next report. Thank you again. Director Flowers this morning has an excused absence, and so in his place, Director Kellogg will take care of the notes and minutes for us this morning from the Metropolitan Policy Advisory Committee, Impact. Director Kellogg.
Thank you, President Lewis. I'm pinch hitting here, so this is written in the first person. I'll be reading in the third person, so just bear with me. So this is an update from the Metropolitan Policy Advisory Committee meeting of May 2026. Committee members received an update on the governor's prosperity roadmap progress. This effort was launched by Governor Kotek in December of 2025 as a response to the economic headwinds currently facing Oregon. The roadmap will guide a statewide economic strategy built around three overarching goals. 1, business retention and growth. 2, job creation. And 3, accelerated economic growth. Informed by community input and a set of strategic initiatives, the council will soon make actionable recommendations and define steps to accelerate Oregon's economy, create good-paying jobs, and recruit and grow Oregon's businesses. So good luck with that. At the May meeting, committee members also received a thorough presentation from Metro staff on the 2040 Growth Concept Look Back, an assessment of the successes, challenges, and oversights of the original 1995 growth concept. The look back provided a summary and perspective of growth management, housing, transportation, climate, economy, farmland, and parks and nature. Specific to transportation, the region's compact development pattern has rescued per capita driving compared to other U.S. metropolitan areas, lowering costs and improving safety outcomes. However, transit ridership has declined over time despite investments in service. While the region benefits from integrated land use and transportation planning, gaps remain in transit and active transportation networks. Reflecting upon these foundational measures of past planning will guide updates to regional plans and policies as part of the Future Vision, otherwise known as Future 50, work ahead. Impact will meet again this evening.
Thank you, Director Kellogg. Are there any questions that he possibly can answer since he is pinch hitting? Okay. Yeah, okay.
After your fair share of impacts, you could probably make it up.
Thank you, Director Kellogg. Okay. Now I will ask Director Kim to provide a report on our last week's Finance and Audit, also known as F&A Committee meeting. Director Kim?
Thank you, President Lewis. The Finance and Audit Committee met on Thursday, June 18th. First, we had an overview of the 2026 bond transaction. We successfully completed its 2026 payroll tax revenue bond financing. And as you know, bond proceeds will provide critical funding for the 82nd Avenue and TV Highway projects, Columbia bus base, ERP modernization, and light rail vehicle replacement. The transaction also included refunding certain outstanding obligations, generating approximately $10.5 million in net present value savings. The bonds received the highest possible credit ratings, AAA from Moody's, AAA from S&P, and AAA from Kroll, reflecting TriMet's credit quality. The transaction attracted strong investor demand, resulting in favorable borrowing costs while remaining within all board-approved financial policies and debt affordability targets. And we also discussed the balanced budget scorecard. The Budget and Forecasting Director provided an update on the balanced budget scorecard, which is used to support TriMet's 15-year financial forecast and long-term financial planning. The scorecard has been updated to reflect changes in operations, upcoming service adjustments, revised financial assumptions, and the most recent bond transaction. The updated forecast highlights the ongoing budget pressure on the district's projected financial position. We'll hear details from our CFO later this morning. And yes, that concludes my report on the F&A.
Okay, thank you, Director Kim. Are there any questions, comments for Director Kim? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Also, again, Director Kim will provide us a report from ATU Defined Benefits Pension Meeting.
Yes,
Director.
thank you. On May 22nd, about a month ago, the trustees of the Defined Benefit Pension Plan for the ATU plan, we met to review quarterly investment performance. Makita Investment Group, the financial advisor to the Defined Benefit Pension Trust, presented the quarterly investment performance reports. Overall investment performance was favorable, and no changes or actions were recommended regarding the current investment managers or fund allocations. Makita also provided an economic and market update covering market conditions through March 31, including broader economic trends and investment environment, observations relevant to the pension trusts. And lastly, Makita reported that both pension plans remain in compliance with the annual review requirement related to cryptocurrency and digital asset exposure policies. And we did not take any actions during the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kim. Are there any questions from board members? Follow up? Okay, hearing and seeing none, thank you. Next, I'll turn to a few board announcements. First, an excellent, wonderful announcement is that Governor Kotek appointed Denise McGriff as our next TriMet Board Director for District 7. Yay. Director McGriff was confirmed by the Oregon Senate on June 17th, that was Friday, and her term officially started on Monday. So she is highly welcome, and we're looking forward to her joining us. We do anticipate that she will be here for our July meeting, which is July 22nd. Director McGriff fills the vacancy from former Director Kathy Way and represents TriMet District 7, which includes Clackamas County, West Linn, Oregon City, and Gladstone. Because Director Way's term had expired, Director McGriff will serve a full 4-year term through June 2030. I will provide an official introduction party with bells, whistles, and everything for Director McGriff at our July board meeting. Okay. There was an email that went out. Send her your happiness and hugs and all that good stuff. Next, I would like to ask Director Frisbee if she has any update reports from being on the Governor's Visioning Committee and her capacity as a liaison for that committee. Director Frisbee? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. The Governor's Transportation Vision Work Group met on June 1st. We have our next meeting on July 7th. This last meeting was mostly focused on the subcommittee groups. There are seven subcommittee groups. Director DeSue is sitting on the transit subcommittee work group, which is excellent, and I have talked to the team and informed them that I will also be often sitting in on those meetings to the extent that I can. And I've also been assigned to the major projects subcommittee work group, which Director Flowers is also sitting on in a different capacity. So there are 7 work groups. Each of those work groups is supposed to essentially feed up a series of recommendations to the larger group, who will then sort of filter through and determine what they can move forward to actually recommend to the governor. The work groups are transit, major projects, freight, safety and livability. I think it's safety and community livability. And then the finance work group, which is really getting into some of the nuts and bolts in terms of financial projections and modeling. So those groups will be meeting. Like I said, our next meeting is the 7th of July, and we will be starting to look at some of the larger, what are sort of the state level needs, looking at the system across the state. Did I miss, has the transit subcommittee group, they've met once? Yeah, great. Any questions?
Yes, I do have a question. Is there a possibility that the public can visit or see minutes from the meetings? Can you give an update of how they can join
Yes.
virtually?
The governor's work group is a public meeting, so, and we take public comment. There's a specific website for the work group. If you type in Oregon Governor's Transportation Vision Work Group or some collection of those words, the website will pop up, and the email to send in public comment is there. We didn't have any public comment at our last meeting, but I anticipate we may start to get live public comment as the schedule goes on. The minutes and records from each of those meetings are also available. My understanding is the subcommittee groups are not public, but you'll see the work from those groups flow up and be part of the public record for the overall work group. And if anyone wants to attend and express opinions, I'm really happy to talk with you about how to do that. And also, I carpool down there. So, you know, as long as I know you, I'm willing to go with you. So, or, you know, if you come vouch for in some way or another. But, yeah.
Thank you. Very good. And it is important that we have a way for the communities to get information on the visioning committee. That's important to us and important to our committees. Thank you, Tyler. Next, I have a few announcements to our board members. One is you will be getting the GM performance worksheet. Thomas and I are meeting on that tomorrow. And as we move forward, which we wrap up in October. And there's a series of tasks, duties, things to do, and that will be coming forward. Next, I'd like to remind everyone that you received an email from Shelley with the date on getting your ethics update. Is it every 2 or 4 years?
It's just once every term.
Once every term, so some of you are rolling into new terms. Director Graham and Director Flowers. So just a reminder to go back to Shelley's email. There is a link where you can go, and I think myself and you need to do that, yeah. So just check yourself, see it, but just want to remind you, when you got our email, that link was in there, and to do that, sign up for those meetings. Okay. Any announcements from board members or anything? Good, okay. Now we will turn our time and attention and love to the general manager for his monthly report.
Thank you, President Lewis, and good morning, board. Good morning, community partners and the public, TriMet staff. Thank you all for being here this morning. So in my report this morning, I'll share our latest ridership data. You'll hear our monthly operations and analysis report. I'll also provide updates on budget-related items, and then I'll give you an update on the first transit subgroup meeting, as Director Frisbee just talked about here just a moment. Then I'll bring up Chief Safety and Security Officer Andrew Wilson. We'll have a monthly safety and security report, including the results of a new fare evasion report. And then finally, we'll recognize a bus operator who may need no introduction as his story of finding a lost and missing man has gone viral all over. So turning to ridership, TriMet provided nearly 5.9 million rides in May, and that's up 1.2%, or almost 72,000 rides from May of 2025. While that is considered flat growth year over year, it's important to note that May 26 had one less weekday than May 25. Overall, fixed route ridership for 2026 calendar year thus far is trending slightly higher than at this point last year. So now I'm going to bring up our folks from planning. Now I'll turn our monthly operations analysis report over to Les Spittler, our Director of Transit Systems, Support Services, and Senior Analyst for Operations and Planning, Catherine Keelan. So over to you.
Thank you, General Manager Dessou. Good morning, President Lewis, members of the board. Catherine and I are here to present the monthly operations analysis for May 2026. Next slide, please.
May ridership increased over year prior for all modes, both for weekly averages and monthly totals. I'd like to highlight that max weekday ridership is in the black, specifically focusing on Monday through Friday. And in previous months, we've shared that max weekday ridership is highly influenced by the downtown Portland office occupancy rates. What Les and I have seen in recent external reports is the notion that the office real estate market is stabilizing, and that would have implications for travel demand to and from the urban core, particularly on weekdays. For TriMet, the last 9 months of 2025 had consecutive negative year over year for weekdays. And in 2026, January, February, and now May have had max weekday ridership that is just above zero. So an inflection point for max weekday ridership would be very welcome news. We're tracking this. Pivoting to the weekends, both Saturday and Sunday have growth trends for both bus and max. Last month, we discussed a negative year-over-year percentage for April max Saturday and how that comparative statistic was nuanced due to a large protest gathering in April 2025. So it is notable to see that the May Saturday subtotals show growth for max and bus, as well as do the Sunday figures. Director Frisbee, we did compare the Saturday, April 26 to April 24 values, the respective April value, and the change was a 6.7% increase in ridership. Next slide. Of course. All right, on this slide, I'd like to follow up on Director Kellogg's question about the impact of fuel prices on ridership. According to ODOT data, the 2026 gas prices have been relatively high from March through present, peaking in April. And over this period, bus and max ridership have trended very closely with the respective year prior. Gas prices may be a part of the spring uptick in West ridership, possibly. I'd like to discuss this landmark study from the early 2000s covering 10 US cities with a decade's worth of transit data and gas data. This study found, unsurprisingly, that the magnitude of the transit impacts depends on the magnitude of the gas increase. But what is less intuitive and very relevant is that the long-term effects of the rising gas prices were stronger than the short-term impacts. So while we're still living in the short-term aftermath of these 2026 gas price increases, we will continue, of course, to observe and provide updates in this regard. Next slide.
Thank you, Catherine. Bus performance for the month of May is really good. I'd like to highlight two of the metrics. The first is boarding rides per revenue hour. On the top left, it hit a new 2-year high. This highlights the fact that the service cuts that have been made have been extremely thoughtful with regard to minimizing the impact on ridership. The other metric I'd like to highlight is mean distance between failure. You can see that it's dropped a little bit, but it is still above target. That's due to the diligence of our exceptional bus maintenance team. As I've mentioned in the past, there have been some engine overhauls going on with some of our older fleets and some of our newer fleets, particularly the battery electric buses, have had some issues, but again, our bus maintenance team is being really diligent about keeping up with preventative maintenance and keeping those buses in a state of good repair. Next slide.
Everything is on the favorable side of the target, of the performance target for max operations for May. Next slide.
Okay, for accessible transportation programs, we've discussed the changes in policy and operations in the past couple months that are intended to conserve resources for the financial sustainability of the program. I want to talk about boarding rides per revenue hour. There are seasonal fluctuations in ATP ridership, and March is typically the highest ridership month. And since then, those operational changes have taken effect, going from door to door to curb. And so since those changes have taken effect, the ATP leadership team is looking at assumptions built into the scheduling software for factors like speed and dwell time. Historical averages may or may not be as accurate with this change, and so they're going to continue to look at those in an effort to bring this metric back up by dialing in those two factors to make it more, to make the daily schedules more accurate. I also want to talk about preventable collisions. As you can see, this is above target. TransDev, our contracted transportation partner, has initiated a campaign with operators to provide additional training, education, and bring awareness to additional safe driving practices. And as that campaign continues to roll out, we would expect this metric to go down. But time will tell. So, yeah. Next slide, please.
For West, boarding rides per revenue hour crested just above 40 for the first time in recent history. The rest of the metrics are within normal ranges. Next slide. And lastly, we have the 12-month look back with metrics and definitions. Thank you for your time this morning. This concludes our overview.
Any questions from board members before they step away? Seeing and hearing none. Okay, back to you, General Manager.
Okay, thank you guys very much. Thanks for the update. President Lewis, members of the board, as you all are aware, fuel costs jumped to extremes after the Iran war began at the end of February. At one point, TriMet fuel costs were 84% over weekly budgeted amounts. While the global situation may have changed and fuel prices have remained elevated, and we've taken steps to address the impact. As you remember at a March board meeting, the board approved the transfer of $3 million into funds to maintenance because of the anticipated increase in fuel prices. In addition, the fiscal year 2027 budget was developed using a higher fuel cost assumptions to better reflect current market conditions. However, I want to make you aware that the increased fuel cost triggered a board-directed resolution. Back in 2005, TriMet was facing a similar period of rising fuel prices. At that time, the board adopted a directive requiring the general manager to develop a formal action plan if fuel costs exceeded budget projections by more than 10% for 2 consecutive months. We will continue to closely monitor fuel prices and their impact on our financial outlook, and I'll keep the board informed of any additional actions that may be necessary. Now I'll bring up our Chief Financial Officer, Nancy Young Oliver, to review the latest budget scorecard.
Good morning, President Lewis and members of the board. So if you will advance, please. It's just slow, all right. So of course, here is the scorecard, as you're familiar with seeing. What I'd like to do is just go ahead and jump one slide, please, and get to what's changed. Okay, so what has changed? Since we last met, you adopted the budget, and with that came the service changes that you approved at the April board meeting, along with some operational changes that are reflected in the budget. So that is now implemented in the green below. You can see the divisional cuts for fiscal 2027 is 49 million. In fiscal 28, it jumps up to 57 million. That big difference has to do with the timing of when those cuts are made, plus ongoing cost as folks leave the organization. But in addition to that, as mentioned earlier, we did successfully complete the bond issuance. As Director Kim shared, that included a new money issuance of approximately 145 million altogether, and a refunding of 324 million. That refunding resulted in a gross 20.9 million savings, or a net present value of 10.5 million. We were able to maintain our AAA credit rating by all 3 rating agencies. We absolutely benefited from the Investor Relations Program, which went live about 2 years ago. Kingston Sprague has done a fabulous job with that. And what that resulted in is that we were over 3 times subscribed. In other words, for every dollar in bond that we sold, we had 3 people standing there saying, I'll buy the bond, which was great. And not that it's a competition, but we actually received better rates in the market that day than the state of Oregon, who was also out for a bond issuance in the market at the same time. So we're really pleased with that. What that means is between the new money issuance, we had forecasted about $10.2 million payment. Because of the way it was structured, it came in at just under 9 million. So that is an ongoing permanent savings there of just over $1 million. Because of the refunding, the net present value, that's also about another $500,000. So altogether, you can see we've added here the debt service in fiscal '27 is another $2 million ongoing savings. So overall, if you could go ahead and advance, please. And advance again. And one more time. Thank you. So what that means is that with the changes in service, the operational changes, and the savings from the bond issuance, all of those put together, we are now have reduced that deficit from the actions taken down to $158 million. Happy to answer any questions, and I also have Kingston Sprague here with me today if you have any questions about the bond issuance. Thank you.
Nancy, thank you for the update. Board, last week, TriMet participated in the first meeting of our transit and passenger rail subgroup of the Governor's Transportation Vision Work Group, where Director Frisbee sits. TriMet was represented by our Director of Government Affairs, Miles Pengilly. I was here with you at the CAT committee luncheon that we had as well. Joined on the subgroup by the ATU and transit providers and advocates and business interests from across the state. The transit subgroup is chaired by my friend and colleague, Jamison Otten. He's the CEO for Lane Transit. Many of you have met him in the past as well. In periodic meetings through September, the subgroup will meet to develop a memo that captures a 10-year outlook for Oregon Transit under 3 funding scenarios. Number 1, no new funding. Number 2, stabilize and sustain core services. And then the third one is incremental investments. Also highlights and key priorities and recommended actions. This memo will inform the work of the Governor's Transportation Vision Work Group as they build a comprehensive investment framework for Oregon's transportation system. The framework they develop will serve as the foundation of the 2027 transportation package going forward, and that's the committee that Director Frisbee is on. I know Miles Pengilly is in the audience, or did he leave? Miles, I don't know if there's anything that you want to add. You were sitting at the committee. Did I cover everything? Any questions? Okay, next this morning, our Chief Safety and Security Officer, Andrew Wilson, is here to present the monthly safety and security report. As part of his report, he will provide the results of our recent onboard fare evasion survey. So over to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Sam. So good morning again, TriMet Board of Directors, President Lewis. It's great to be here with you again for another update from Safety and Security here at TriMet. And I just want to, before I get started, I just want to say I get to work with incredible people in my Safety and Security Department and all of TriMet, but these are not my results. These are results of an excellent team that's on mission here to keep people safe, riders and employees, and I'm just very thankful from the bottom of my heart I get to work with such a talented team that's on mission as much as they are. So we'll go to the first slide. The fare enforcement activity, you can see we've really upticked that. And again, this has kind of been a great journey. We started this group from 3 people in 2021. It was heavily informed by Reimagine as we went through that process, and we're seeing really good activity out there. And we're also doing it in a very fair and balanced way. Everybody gets checked, the entire train, the entire bus, and so it's getting us good results, which I won't bury my lead too much, but we'll talk about that a little later. So if we go to the next slide, you'll also see that we are holding people accountable and we're issuing citations at a greater rate. Now, it's no different than if you park on a city sidewalk in the city of Portland and you're outside of the time limit, you will get a ticket. I know this. I know many of you do too. So, so this is just about us holding people accountable that this is a paid fare system. Again, great outcomes, everybody gets checked, and we're seeing good results. And so you can kind of see that line of the amount of transit citations versus warnings. We actually are issuing more citations now as people are very well educated that we are a paid fare system. And if we go to the next slide, I will just mention Beverly Hermosillo. fabulous member of our SRT. She's been with us since the very beginning. She's a great advocate for that team, loves the team, and she's a friend of mine. And so you can see the level of dedication and heart that this team brings to that mission, which is to keep some of the most vulnerable people in our community that use our system as safe and as connected as possible, and they do an excellent job in that. They're not only professional, but they love this community. So we love to see this team out there doing this work. Every one of these contacts means something for the city of Portland and the community in the Tri-County area. And if we go to the next slide, you can see kind of, again, those top 5 things that they're doing out on the system. We have a much longer list as they kind of code what each interaction is, but those are the top 5. So they do also do things like wayfinding and just are a friendly face for TriMet, which is very important for us as well. But you can see there's a lot of welfare education or welfare checks and education out there, which again is serving this community very well. And if we go to the next slide. So again, I just want to reference the blue light phone incoming and outgoing. Dr. Lewis, you kind of astutely sort of said this last time, I think maybe it was 2 times ago, but just really watching how much call volume is coming in. We are in the process of adding 4 additional staff right now to be even more responsive to our riders. So that's exciting. And I think that this team is doing great work. We're finding ways to, and in the SOC to respond to this. We're finding ways to really leverage incoming phone calls into the SOC, but particularly from the blue light phones. And I just want to remind everybody that blue light phones, we can talk out of the blue light phones. And so it's a great force multiplier for us as we tell people things out on the platform at 2 or 3 locations per platform sometimes. If you go to Gateway, we can talk to you all over the place, and we do that because there's a lot of things that we don't want you doing out there at different times of the night, and it's very effective. It does help that you're able to say that we do have transit police and they will respond to that illegal activity, and you'd be surprised at how many people just move along and provide a safer experience. And we'll go to the next slide. Again, this is that SOC call volume. Dr. Lewis, you can kind of see it's come down a little bit, and we are tracking this pretty actively. Chad, the manager in this group, watches this. I get reports on this every single week. They're very good reports about the types of activity that happens out there. And Sam and I review kind of the highest level kind of things that are out there and think about ways to tweak kind of public safety. This is a very good opportunity for us as we go into the future to have a fully, staffed 24-hour SOC. So I'd encourage you all, if you're out there on the system, please call into that. You can send Sam or I an email with process improvement tips. We will take them. We're in that mode. But good things are happening. If we go to the next slide. Now, so this is just, I wanted to come back to you and just really talk about the project completion of both of these efforts. So you recall that we had 59 of these installed last December. We now have an additional 33 blue light phones. There's 92 of them out there. So you'll see them all over the place if you're out on the system. It's actually brings joy to my heart to see these up there because I know that every place they're put, we do have better security outcomes. And it also just reminds riders that security is present and it's active and it's 24 hours a day. The elevator access control, actually yesterday I had the opportunity to go to our South Precinct with Transit, which is located in the Clackamas Town Center. I know some of you probably are aware of that. It used to be staffed when we had more officers. We're reopening that because we're getting more officers. And it's exciting. We're actually in talks with Oregon City, and so we can talk with our new board member about that this next month. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but we're going to have an annual report overview from our transit chief next month in July, so we can talk a little bit about that. But I mentioned South Precinct because that was built back in 2009 when we were doing the Green Line. I remember being out there. I worked in that area at the time, watching that construction go up. And while I was out there, there are 4 stories of that elevator to serve that garage, if you've been out there recently at Clackamas Town Center. And it was so exciting to see that there were actually 4 access control devices on every single one of those elevators. I don't know why that impacted me, probably because if somebody asked me, do you have a location that has 4 at that location, I would have said no. But it's good to see it in person that yes, we do at every level. And that is effective. I shared at the CAT luncheon this last time how important the CAT committee was in making this get across the finish line. And I get to talk about this around the country and celebrate other people's really good work and inform the industry on an effective tool to maintain access control and to make these elevators safe for the people that need them the most. And I'm just going to give a shout out to AJ O'Connor, who is in the room. He's been called out. I guarantee you he didn't want to be on screen. But AJ and I were a part of a work group in late 2022. I was talking about this with him this morning, and I'm going to give him the full credit. I believe this was AJ's idea, and I think he believes that too. So as we were talking about ways we could improve, and so this is just IT showing up to help safety and security and operations, and this is a very good thing. So I'm excited to see the locations that this is at. Share it with others, and we're going to keep looking at this technology and other places where we could use it as well around the system to maintain access. All right, next slide, please. So transit police by the numbers. So when I took this role, actually in 2022, there were actually 16 at the beginning of that year, but we did end the year at 18 in transit police. We are now up to 23. Or 33. I'm so excited for the outcomes from this group. This is a very community-centered, excellent professional group. And next month, like I said, I'm going to have our transit chief come and share the annual report. That was in the board portal. If you want to look at the annual report, the MCSO put that together. They made it kind of chic. It kind of, the pages look cool and stuff. I don't know if you've noticed what they did there. They put some frills on it this year. But there were some really good things in that report that are very compelling as to why you need this much transit police out on the system. I'll tell you this next month, we're actually going to add an additional 4 MCSO to that. So we're excited to bring more folks in, which is part of the reason why we're exploring the South Precinct, because we're filling up at the PSO. And then we have Oregon City, and the city of Beaverton is actually in talks to give us additional officers. They're already in the program. But it is important to maintain a geographic footprint in a tri-county area, so we don't just want to fill up with, let's say, MCSO or Portland when we're serving 3 counties. And so we're really leaning into that task force model. It comes up all the time when we have an incident, let's say in Hillsborough. We just had one recently. And it's really good to have folks that are connected to that in the departments, because if you're going to do follow-up and things like that, it's really important to have folks that are embedded in transit from those departments. They've got contacts, they can call them and make things happen for us. So that's very good. All right, we'll go to the next slide. So this is the lead. This is an incredible journey we've been on fare evasion. I'll tell you, in 23 and 22, these rates would have been much higher. But these are the rates that we've charted. And this is an incredible amount of work by our customer safety supervisors in particular. Our program has been very successful, as you've seen, kind of building up the amount of activity, fare enforcement activity and checks that have been out there. And we're now seeing a fare evasion rate of 14%. Now, that is not mission accomplished. We want to continue to drive at that. But I'll tell you that in the industry, particularly with an open system like ours, that is a very good number, and we can be proud of that as an agency. And we have more work to do, and we'll do it. But I think we're headed in the right direction. So I wanted to share that with you this morning as we try to keep people safe out there, and we work on all the different efforts. This isn't just 1 or 2 things. This is a lot of different things with a lot of different people involved to get these kinds of results. And so we're going to continue to push and be responsive to our community and make this system safe. And that concludes my presentation this morning, if you have any questions.
Director Frisbee?
Andrew, I think I remember this in the fare evasion report, but I was reading it late last night, so it's a little iffy. Can you talk about what that, essentially the 50% decrease in fare evasion, what it means in terms of revenue, fare box revenue?
Yeah, so that is a hard thing for us to track. And I think you know this. I mean, we do work with our fare team pretty closely. I actually met with them yesterday to try to align some of these numbers. Because we have card readers, which if you've been out on the system, you'll see these wands that they have that check. And you can say it's a fare evasion by a button, and there's like 7 different options. And so the reason I say that is this is a true number for fare evasion from TransPro, our consultant that came in and actually does this work across the country. And so we can marry ourselves very reasonably to those numbers from TransPro in that. But it's hard for us to track that against actual incoming money. And some of the reason for that is a lot of folks out there have fare that they are given, and sometimes they haven't validated the card. So there's different kinds of ways to look at this, but I will say generally, and we've confirmed this, when you bring those numbers down, you do see additional money in the box. But it's very difficult for us to track that on a complete line. I'll tell you that if you're looking back in 23 and 22, when our fare evasion was very high, there's definitely significant increases from there. Yeah.
Director Kellogg?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Outstanding news. I know your department's been working really hard on this for years, so I want
Thank
to
you.
commend you for that work. One question, so this is max fare evasion rate.
Yep.
Do we have any idea on the buses?
So it's interesting. So we did bus. You might recall, I actually shared that last year, and we ended up at about 8%. This actually costs money to do this survey, and so national trends-wise, bus usually always has better fare enforcement. Why? Because you're interacting with a person. You're not just walking into an open train, right? So we chose not to do that, but last year it was 8%. On FX2, we had a different study done as well, and that was about 2 years ago. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what that was. Was it 8? Yeah. So the FX2 was 8% too. But we strategically have chosen not to try to spend money, because it does cost money to do that survey work, to chart maybe a 1% decrease, because you start to run into the law of diminishing returns in just charting the study. So if we're at 8%, or let's say 7%, that's a great result for bus. If you think about it nationally, there are, and you can read about this in international and national news media, there are some agencies, some very large ones, that have incredibly high fare evasion on buses. The largest city in the United States is the one I'm referring to, but you can read about that. So for us, for 8%, that is pretty good. And we're not necessarily planning to do any more survey work on bus in the near future. But we do it on Max, because Max is a very different, that mode is different. There's a lot more fare evasion, particularly in an open system like ours.
And is there any other large city that has an open system like ours?
Lots,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, lots. And we do, and that's one of the reasons why we use TransPro, because they go to some of those cities and we can kind of benchmark against them. You know, if you look at areas like BART or New York or others, I've told you guys, I think, this before, but it's really interesting, and let's just take MTA, for example. They don't do fare enforcement beyond the fare gate. Generally, like you will get caught up in a fare issue if you've committed some other crime, but they're not checking people's fares once you've breached the fare gate, because it's very difficult to do, right? That's something we don't have the luxury of doing. We actually have to create a fare discussion on board at multiple locations, and so it's just a different, it's a very different system in comparison with others. And I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
Mostly.
yeah.
But to toot our own horn, for those systems that are similar to ours, what are they publishing for a fare evasion rate?
Well, there's several, and they're not good. You're seeing some, even on the West Coast, some of our largest folks that are running 30-40% on fare evasion with open systems like ours. So, and we can share that data with you. Some of those systems have open new lines. They don't have the sophistication, the program that we've developed with actual folks doing that work. You know, we didn't do this work like we probably should have in 21. They're in that journey as well, and we talk to them. So we're sharing our ideas and insights on how to grow a kind of community-centered, employee-based fare check system, which is very successful. Yes, we are a West Coast leader in this area, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
So
fantastic news. Keep up the good work.
yeah, thank you.
I have a question. I believe it was last year, it might be the year before, you and I attended a workshop on fare evasion. And there were two systems that were open that bragged zero fare evasion. And so we could probably check with APTA to see, to answer or get numbers of how they're doing on Director Frisbee's question, and how is that converting to revenue. But there were two. They were bragging, and we all sat there with our mouths open.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember those two.
I'd like to
And
check that data.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
and I were there,
Yeah.
but I was like, wow. So when you asked, when Director Kellogg made the comment, it was like, no, there were two. And so there may be more, but it would be good because of the open systems to
Yep.
see how their revenue. You could bring that information to us in one of our education sessions, so we could take it a little further. Because I have quite a few more questions, but I won't take up the time today, more so in our education session, so that we can be more familiar as a board with how the system is working, what you're checking, what do you do with the homeless that don't have addresses? And if they don't pay, they don't pay. I mean, what's the turnaround? So we can take a deeper dive. But thank you. A lot of moving parts. Excellent work. Thank you.
We will get back to you with that because,
Okay.
and a lot of that is published too. So
Yes.
it's actually in articles that you can read about with SDMTS or Sound Transit, some of the others. But just before I end, quick plug, exploring fare gates into the future at certain locations is a good idea. Unfortunately, it's very expensive technology. So we're
Right.
looking at that from an innovation perspective. But those open systems, you do struggle more than others. So
Yeah.
you'll see that with BART and others that have fare gates.
Hopefully you can include, I know it's a bad word, but how AI can assist us in fare evasion
Yeah.
when you do your reports. Thank you. Okay, back to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you, Board. Seattle is another system that is open as well, that's down the street from us that we can have conversation around. And we'll definitely bring this to a future education session, have further conversation. I want to just open and say that our greatest asset here at TriMet is our employees. And I truly believe that we have world-class employees that work at this organization. So today, we're going to be presenting to one. So if our operator and management staff, if you guys could come forward. As they're coming forward, by now you have seen or heard something about the story that I'm about to share with you. That's because our bus operator, Kunchak Yama's recently act of heroism was nothing short of miraculous. Not only did he find a 73-year-old man reported missing from a local care facility, as you can see in our Instagram post, by an incredible twist of fate, our operator is one of only a few thousand people in our area who could effectively communicate with the man. It's all wrapped up in this report from KGW News earlier this month. Take a look.
I'll do it for a Portland man missing for days has been found, and he's lucky one particular TriMet bus driver was the one to spot him. Jake Holter explains.
By sheer happenstance, when Kunchak Lama was driving his regular bus route, he saw what he thought was the missing man at a crosswalk, and through their shared language was able to reunite him with his family.
I was very happy, and it was me that that found my own person, like my own community person.
When Kunchak Lama saw online that a fellow Tibetan was missing, he made sure to keep an eye out on his route.
The Tibetan community, they all went looking around for him all over Portland area, and he was nowhere to be seen.
73-year-old Pema Dorji had been missing since Saturday, last seen at his assisted living facility. His stepdaughter tells us she was extremely concerned as he'd never been gone that long.
3 days, almost 4 days, that's a lot. I was very nervous because even with all the help, we couldn't find him, so I was very scared.
And Lama knew Dorji, but said the last time he'd seen him was a few months ago. Had you met him before?
Yes, I did, because he goes to the same community center. We are both Tibetan. Like, he goes to the same Tibetan community center as I do.
Lama says the Tibetan community is very tight-knit, with only about 2,000 living in the Portland metro.
Pema Dorji, he's like a father figure to me, and he's always been there, during the Tibetan community events, and it was really good feeling. And I feel like I was there at right place at the right time.
That place and time along his normal route, operating the 72 bus. On Tuesday, he spotted Dorji near the Southeast 82nd Avenue and Overland stop.
He was shaking and he was tired and he was kind of weak. So I talked to him in Tibetan language to see if he could respond. He finally did, and then I had to take him with me inside the bus.
Lama, being Tibetan himself, proved extremely useful.
I had to translate because Pema Dorji, he did not speak English well. Then I translated it to the police, and the police took Pema Dorji to where he's supposed to be with his family.
I was so relieved. I was so happy. And then I said, is he okay? They said physically he looks okay.
Jake Holter, KGW News.
Now I'd like to just share a portion of the commendation the man's family sent in to us. Speaking of Kunchak, I am incredibly impressed with his work ethic, his commitment to public safety. I want to extend my sincere thanks to Kunchak and to the department for employing such an excellent and hardworking professional. The email calls him exemplary worker and a credit to TriMet and the Portland region. I could not agree more with that. I was touched by your actions and wanted to share my appreciation for you as a TriMet employee and a human being. Before we hear from you, sir, I would like to just introduce your manager, Julie Martin, who's going to share more about Kunchak and how remarkable his encounter was. So Julie, over to you.
Thank you. Dr. Lewis, board. Good morning. I am Julie Martin. I am one of the assistant managers of bus transportation, and I would like to recognize one of our bus operators for his recent actions, exemplifying the highest standard of professionalism and selfless service to our community. Operator Kunchak Lama has been with TriMet since May of 2023. I first met him when he was still just out of training, I think, yeah. So I've known him for a few years. In those 3 years, I want to kind of highlight he has earned a National Safety Counselor Driver Award, 3 Superior Performance Awards, multiple Perfect Attendance Awards, and actually I looked, and he has only missed 2 days out of the full 3 years, which is incredible. He has earned 3 years of 100% customer satisfaction awards and multiple individual customer commendations. Not only that, Kunchak also has a reputation among the operators and bus management as being a kind, good-natured, generous friend and coworker. As you saw in the news report, Kunchak spoke to the man in Tibetan and was able to comfort the man through words and actions as he brought him on board, contacted dispatch, waited for police to arrive, and helped the man back to his home and community. I wanted to highlight quickly all the factors that needed to align for this story to have such a positive ending. One, Kunchak, you were born in Nepal, but raised in the region of Tibet where you learn the language. That day, he traded with a coworker to start earlier than he was originally scheduled. His assignment included only one trip from Clackamas to Swan Island that morning. He saw the missing person flyer online just days earlier, and because he performed proper scanning and safe driving techniques that prepared him to see the elderly man on the sidewalk and to stop safely. It's incredible to me that all of these factors align for Kunchak to be in the right place and at the right time. If he was assigned any other route, if he maybe had been assigned the bus 15 minutes previous or 15 minutes prior or after, things could have turned out much differently. So lastly, I want to point out one of the connections between TriMet's commitment to safety and service, along with the values rooted in Tibetan culture and philosophy. At TriMet, we strive to serve others with dignity, respect, and compassion. A major principle in Tibetan tradition is compassion in action. It is the idea that we have the responsibility to alleviate the suffering of others whenever we are able. And on that morning of June 2nd, Kunchuk exhibited the core value of both his TriMet and Tibetan cultures in saving a man's life by being ready to serve compassion through his actions. So it is my privilege to recognize Operator Kunchuk Lama for his spirit of service, compassion, and humility that strengthens both our community and our organization.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kunchuk Lama, and I'm very, I don't do a lot of social media. It's my kids, and they keep telling me, your social media, TriMet social media is, did you even see the comments, read the comments? And I just said, well, it's just the act of kindness, So I just want to thank each and every one, I just, happy. I'm just happy that I found him, safe, and right now, he is safe with his family and with the community. I just want to thank everyone. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So please stay here, because I know the board wants to have some comments as well. I just want to complete and just say thank you for your kindness, for your good heart that's here, and all you bring to your role. I have had leaders, our communication public affairs team, put this out on the international stage, and I've had leaders from around this country contact me about what you did and what was there. It was very heartfelt, the actions that you took. I had people tell me that was a fantastic story. They wanted to thank you from around the country for your compassion and your quick thinking. They said drivers do not nearly get enough appreciation at one person for the roles that they fulfill. This is a true example of a servant behavior in a public-facing position, was one comment that came to me. And then finally, people were saying what an amazing story that was shared, that you went above and beyond the call of duty. We had over 3,100 impressions that took place and 168 likes. There was 4 or 5 different reposts of what was taking place. I just want to let you know that you are the lifeblood of this organization. And from the bottom of my heart as a leader of TriMet, I want to just thank you for what you bring and what you do every day, especially in that situation. So with that, President Lewis, I'll turn it over to you after hearing from the board. And then afterwards, I would love for us to take a break so that we can go take a picture with him.
Director Kim?
Sir, thank you so much. This gave me a glimpse of the kind of man you are and the kind of life you lead. And that encouraged me so much personally. I mean, aside from you making all of us look good, but it's really, at a personal level, I too also want to lead a life of compassion. So thank you for being that amazing positive influence for others to follow as well. Thank you.
Director Frisbee?
I want to say thank you, and I think what your actions demonstrate is transit is such a part of our community, and it is not just going on your route, which thank goodness you were on the route all of those things that lined up to make this happen, but it is a fabric and it is a part of the way that we all take care of each other. And so thank you for living that out in every way.
Director Kellogg or Director?
Thanks, your embarrassment's almost over.
I know.
No. But one of the the things that caught me about this was they kept saying the right place at the right time. And, you know, the universe works in very odd ways, but one element that they didn't mention was that you had to make the choice, even being in the right place at the right time, but to make that choice to stop and say, hey, everybody, this is for the good of the community, and, you know, step in and help this gentleman in his moment of need. So, excellent work, really. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I was thinking about that too, just the way that you observed him, you saw him, and how important that is for all of us to make sure that we're really seeing the people in our community who are around us, and so you could be there for him in his moment of need. And so, thank you. That was just really inspirational, and I really appreciate you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to echo the words of my board members and to say I appreciate you. Big heart, big heart. Thank you for your compassion, your care, and the person that you are, Mr. Lama. Thank you. Okay.
Let's take a picture.
Okay.
And President Lewis, Board, that concludes my update.
Thank you, General Manager. Excellent note to end on. That was wonderful, very heartfelt. I saw tears. I was trying to hold my tears. Okay, let us turn to the consent agenda. Items appearing on the consent agenda are considered routine and may be approved by the board in one blanket motion. This morning, our consent agenda consists of one item, approving the minutes of our last board meeting, May 27th, 2026. Does any director wish to have this item removed from the consent agenda? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the item on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and second. We'll now vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. We'll now move, excuse me, to our resolutions on the regular agenda. We only have one resolution to consider today, Resolution 260621, authorizing a contract modification, excuse me, with Tate Communications for Radio Systems Managed Services. General Manager, do you have any comments on this resolution?
President Lewis, members of the board, before I address the resolution before you, I want to provide some overall context important for you to have before considering this contract modification. To address TriMet's long-term structural budget deficit throughout the agency, we are looking for ways to save money and increase revenue. Among those efforts, our Chief Information Officer, Ethan Benetton, and our IT staff have been evaluating our contracts for software and IT services. They have been engaging vendors we have existing contracts with to reevaluate those contracts with an emphasis on saving money. IT is in the process of renegotiating 3 such contracts that will save TriMet nearly $2 million without reducing the services that we get. For 2 of those contracts with Milestone and Innit, the overall contract amount is below the threshold to bring to the board. But I want to point out, among the savings, the team has negotiated a 53% discount with Milestone, who is our video technology software vendor, that will save us nearly $1.5 million over 5 years. While that is the largest saving from those 3 new deals, we also save quite a bit of money with the Tate Communications contract modification that is before you today. It will extend the Tate contract from 5 years to 7 years and increase the total contract authority by $579,000, bringing the total contract value to $2.6 million. But as described in your packet, TriMet IT Division has negotiated well over $250,000 in future cost savings. And by extending the contract now at the new cost starting in year 3 through fiscal year 2031, we likely save even more, since the original terms of the contract will have had us renegotiating a new contract in 2029 at the inflated price of that time. Now for what Tate provides us. Tate provides support for TriMet's land mobile radio system. The system is mission critical and a high priority. The radio system provides a communication link vital to both day-to-day operations as well as the safety of our TriMet staff and the public. The system supports 2,900 radios located across our transit system, included in our buses, our trains, our paratransit vehicles, our supervisor vehicles, our transit police cars, our security cars, and other places throughout the system. Every frontline staff member needs a radio on them or nearby as they do their jobs. This is a lifeline to our radio control center for them. Under the modification, Tate will continue to provide 24-hour system health monitoring, a support engineering diagnostic and troubleshooting services, system enhancements, and regular use analysis to meet our current and our future needs. Additionally, Tate will maintain existing new servers, software, and critical backup communication systems. This is a sole source contract. Even with the June 2025 changes and the TCRB rules, this sole source contract still meets the requirements. Because Tate uses proprietary equipment and software, monitoring and support of the system is so critical to TriMet's operations can only be done by Tate staff. Also, while most sole source contracts are limited to 2 years, the substantial savings warrants a longer contractual period and letting the original term of the contract expire and replacing TriMet's entire radio system is not economically feasible. The additional cost for extending the term of this contract with Tate will be included in future years' IT division budgets and are expected to come from general funds. So I recommend your approval.
Okay, thank you, General Manager. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 260621?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
It has been moved and second. Does any board members have any wish to comment, ask questions at this time? Okay. Well, hearing and seeing none, we shall go ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Well, you've had the weather report. You know what to do after the meeting. For those of you that are staying for our briefing, this concludes the June 2026 business meeting. Our next regular business meeting will be July 22nd here in the boardroom. We're going to take a short break, 10 minutes exactly. I'll say that again for those in the back, 10 minutes, before we begin the General Manager's TriMet 2030 strategy session. Enjoy the rest of the week for those who will be leaving. All right, so I know some of the board members in our education sessions have expressed interest in a look forward for the 12-month strategy. Sam will be talking about that shortly, but in the meantime, what we're going to be covering today is some major actions the GM and the agency has taken around advancing our TriMet 2030 plans since November 2025 board retreat. So I'm just going to stop talking and turn this session over to our General Manager, Sam DeSue Jr.
Thanks, President. Really quickly, before I bring Alan up to talk about FY26, I want to talk with the board just for a moment that, first of all, our strategic plan, as we've talked, continues to be our guiding document or a North Star for the next 5 years. So we're going to be revamping and spending time with you as we take a look at it. As we continue to advance, at our next board meeting next month, I plan to bring to you a high-level work plan of where we plan to focus our activities over the next 12 months. I'll be meeting with you through the month of July, and then I'll bring it to the board at the end of July to put in front of you. This work plan will help translate our value to the region, the problems that we're solving for in the next 2 to 3 years, our focus, which is the most important strategic priorities for the next 12 months, and the approach that we're going to take in order to be successful, clear actions and measurable outcomes for the year ahead. So that's coming to you in the next 12 months. But I do want to say that for the last 57 years, we have united this region around the mission to serve more than 1 billion people, taking them to where they need to go. We expect to be here for another 57 years to support our region. TriMet has endured recessions in the 1980s and the 1990s, the Great Recession, the pandemic, and we will endure this and come out the other side ready to serve our region. So we will be working very closely with you as we move forward. We are rebuilding the TriMet that we know and love. And one of the things I want to do is just bring Alan, if you could go ahead and come forward. Alan is going to provide you an update on our TriMet 2030 strategic plan, giving you some of the outcomes of FY26. So with that, Alan, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Sam. President Lewis and members of the board, a relatively brief update because I know you're eager to get out there in the great weather before it hits 90. So the TriMet 2030 plan, as Sam said, continues to be our guiding force to fulfill our mission to connect people with valued mobility options that are safe, convenient, reliable, accessible, and welcoming for all. And as you know, we identified 5 goals and a number of strategies under each one of those goals, identified a select number of them for the priorities for the next period to make sure that we were really focused, not just trying to do a little bit of everything. And so what I want to do is just give you a sense of the accomplishments that we've made and a little taste of some of the benefits to the region that we provide. And that's in this short presentation that I have. If you could go to the next slide. So I apologize for the small print, but this is trying to capture everything in one place. And it shows the 5 goals as well as just the sort of summary of those strategies that we identified as the main focus for this period. So to briefly run through those, overall, of course, we launched this plan during this period, and what we did was we identified action teams. So there's an action team for each of these priority strategies. There's at least one executive level person assigned on those, and that leadership runs through to a team that is empowered to take action to fulfill these strategies. We have a target measurement dashboard. We are tracking our wins and accomplishments and got pretty good results from our Your Voice survey. That's our internal employee survey, finding that people recognized and saw their work contributing to 2030, which is a great outcome for the beginning of this effort. So to talk first about the goal of elevate the customer experience, some of the things that we've accomplished. We completed a customer journey map, which really looks at in detail what are customers experiencing and how can we think about improving those. Identified and mapped 11 prioritized improvement areas and developed KPIs for those. And completed an AI software system pilot of reviewing comments. And interestingly, we found that while it was fairly good, it did not replace human judgment and needed a lot of management to be able to get there. So while we're not adopting that software system, we will continue to test ones in the future, but not going with that one. We also are now on the path of purchasing 15 60-foot hydrogen fuel cell electric buses with your approval last month, and that is a big step in our effort to continuing to reduce our emissions as we operate. These buses also, similar to battery electric buses, are quieter as they ride, and that's part of why we put it in the customer experience, because it is a quality experience for our riders. A few other things to mention that aren't specifically listed in here, but include efforts that we had in this area. One, we ran a real-time disruption survey during one of our service disruptions to understand what our customers were experiencing, and found positive results with responses showing that our customers felt well informed about the disruption and were able to use our services to get through them. We're also working with populations that have low English proficiency to increase understanding of transit and attract new riders through that venue. And then moving on to the ensure financial stability and stewardship, which has really been a focus, obviously, with all of the reporting that you've seen about our financial situation and the needs to respond to that. The biggest two in terms of reducing spending, at looking at reduction in force with our own staff, and also in looking at service reductions, which you have been through and learned a lot about. Implementing a squeeze on hiring to make sure that we are only hiring those necessary positions, and also cutting down on travel to at the absolute minimum that is essential. We've also done a number of other things with looking at our current expenditures, including things like reviewing all of our contracts and reducing or eliminating those that we can that are not the highest priority. Of course, as you know, the completed FY27 budget, which you just adopted, includes a number of these spending reductions and sets us up for better financial performance in the future. And then increased communication, which you have experienced as well with the constant updates on where we are. We also have developed and are exploring a very extensive list of potential revenue options and prioritizing those with the greatest chance of success, but tracking all of those. And finally, in this category, enhancing information and factors that we use for our capital decision-making each year. So every year we have to spend capital at least on state of good repair, but we also have to prioritize and what information we use and the process that we use, we have been improving. Then moving on to the next goal, to increase investment in safe and reliable infrastructure. We began the process to look at the business case and the return on investment for a future enterprise asset management system, a system that allows us to capture, prioritize, and inventory all of the things that we own that eventually need to be replaced and have to be maintained. We developed an agency-wide asset owner management RACI matrix. RACI is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. So a way of making sure that everybody truly understands their responsibility and nothing slips through the cracks. Developed a state of good repair definition, which sounds easier than it is, to make sure that it's compliant with FTA, that it accords with everybody's understanding within the agency, and gives us guidance for how to analyze future capital cost requests that seem to be related to state of good repair, but we need to confirm that. We're working on a ERP system replacement in the long run. We also, I don't think this is listed here, but launched a facility and major asset plan with a 30-year horizon to understand the needs at our various bus facilities, rail facilities, and other places where we have large assets that will need maintenance and or potentially replacement during that period, and so take a long time to be able to plan for and be ready for, to make sure they're done in time. On the IT side, we drafted an agency-wide AI strategy and rolled that out so that while being safe and being very conscious about cybersecurity, we also allow employees to test and try out AI systems so that we can take advantage of the best that's out there. Developed an agency-wide software applications catalog and determined fitness for purpose for hundreds of software applications. As you can imagine, whether a software is the right one to have is not just how long it's been around, but what does it do and does it really fit the need? And that is a more complicated thing than one might expect. But we were able to work through the process and implement that. And we have migrated to a office system that allows more collaboration and more shared documents and things like that, so that we ourselves are more efficient with our development and our work. And then on the fourth goal, which does not have a prioritized strategy, so did not receive as much effort and focus, but will be very important for our efforts going forward, there were a few things I wanted to flag. That we have engaged with regional partners and community stakeholders, even in the development of the plan itself. So before we finalize this, we met with our partners and stakeholders to understand what their input is, what their interests were, and then we'll continue to share what we're focused in on as we go forward. Not only did we send monthly Riders Club updates, but we've shared via social media and news media the kinds of improvements that we've made and the efforts that we're doing, and made sure to get out there the fact that we were having service reduction feedback workshops and trying to engage with the public to understand, well, if we do have to reduce service, where should we do it and what's the best way to do that? And then finally, on continue to build an adaptable, safe, and thriving workplace, We launched 4 pilot programs for continuous improvement because if we are going to be successful, one of the places that the efforts will have to come from is from every single employee thinking about, is what I'm doing making sense? Is it the best way to do it? Are there things that we could do to improve? And how do we, as an agency, help the culture support that kind of effort? We developed training courses for frontline employees and leaders, developed a comprehensive tool set for continuous improvement, and then developed employee recognition materials to be able to recognize when people are identifying those, so that we end up with an entire workforce that is all aiming in the same direction, so that as we continue to develop the strategic direction from SAM, we can all be ready to receive and act on that. That's a rundown of accomplishments since we kicked off. We will continue our efforts, and as we get through our reduction in force over the next month or two, then we will refocus, kind of reset, make sure we're focusing on those things that bring the best value, the most benefit, and that we have the capacity to be able to really focus in on. Next slide. So just a few impacts to remind ourselves of the impact that we have on the region now. Sam mentioned the 57 years that we've been here, the kinds of changes that we've seen, but just as a reminder, over 68 million boardings that we either provided directly or supported directly. Portland is about the 23rd largest urbanized area in the U.S., which means you would expect we were 23rd in ridership, but we are actually 9th in transit boardings per capita. So we are performing above sort of our weight class in terms of the size of our region and what we get back in terms of benefit to those people who are riding and to the region in general. Over 90% of jobs within the region are within a half mile of a TriMet stop or station. So this is a way that people can get to work. This is that people can get to wherever they're trying to get to meet the needs of themselves, to support their family, and to support the regional economy. 37%, so over 1/3 of participants to our attitude and awareness survey said they rely on TriMet for most of their transportation needs. So yes, we are helping people get out of their cars and ride. We are helping people who, for other reasons, want to. We're also helping people who really don't have another good option. And so that's an important part of what we provide to those individuals and to the region as a whole. We do have an income-based reduced fare program, which I think you are aware of, and over $10 million has been saved by riders through that program. And the last one is 5X return. This is a national piece of data. It's not specific to our region, but for every $1 invested in public transportation, it generates $5 in long-term economic returns. So just a reminder of those benefits. And then the final slide. So next steps just in the 2030 process, in addition to the update that you'll be getting from General Manager Dessou, we will have an internal update meeting next month to make sure that we are staying with the cadence of staying on quarterly meetings, and then an annual review with an update booklet that has additional information and has some of those impacts in it as well. And then we will return to the board, I think currently planned at the retreat, but at your discretion. And I think that's the last one. So with that, I will stop and see if there are questions.
Any questions from the board? Director Frisbee?
Thank you, Alan, for this work and for the presentation, because this is one of those things that shows up as a few slides and represents a lot of work. So thank you. And I really appreciate, I think one of the key components of a strategic plan is it's not something that you just say, great, and put it away on a shelf. And so I think coming back to the board, I really appreciate this conversation. I had a few comments that I are mostly looking forward. This was passed at a point when we were becoming much more aware of our fiscal concerns, but they were not, I would say, the end-all, be-all, most pressing issue in the agency. Nancy, feel free to correct me. I would encourage us to think about how we message and frame this. I would have loved, for example, in the presentation today, to have a slide at the beginning that said the most critical role of TriMet in the next 4 years is to address our structural funding concerns and figure out what transit looks like for this region for the next 10 years or 20 years. I think it's important for us to, I know we all feel it, and particularly the staff feel it every moment of every day. But I think we need to remember to express that because the public doesn't always know that we feel it every moment of every day. I would also, I think we need to reflect our work. I would love to have the fiscal piece maybe put up top. And I think we need to be clear about what we are doing around that and what the long-term approach is. Similarly, I did have the thought as I looked at some of these accomplishments. I have a former boss who will not be named who we sometimes had to remind that a meeting is not an outcome. And some of these started to feel like meetings that we were calling outcomes a little bit. And I actually just think that's a way that we talked about them in the accomplishments. But I would encourage us to think about what is that plan serving, right? What is that doing? How does that impact the people who use the system or who we want to use the system? Or who we work with every day as regional partners or as community leaders. So it can be a really hard thing to capture, and I acknowledge that. And I just am mostly saying this is there may be stuff that doesn't show up in that context, and that's okay. I would rather have really outcomes-focused bullets than some of the internal metrics. I think those were my key pieces. The third thing, and you and I have talked about this big picture, I think that part of looking at how we provide the best service to our riders and our financial stability is a real look at what what it means to provide good transit service in this post-COVID, whatever we call where we are now. It's very different. And I think particularly our suburban partners are really feeling it. And there's been some interesting work out of RTD, for example, and a few other places looking at sort of how they serve their communities. They are all facing these same budget issues that we are, and in many cases, frankly, more extreme. So I think everyone is trying to grapple with how do you acknowledge that transit looks different and try to meet that, and also fight an existential crisis in terms of funding. Those are not easy questions, but I would love for us I would love to see how we think about and how we work with our partners to think about what are their transit needs, perceived and real. I'm more interested in meeting the real needs, but finding ways to acknowledge the perceived needs, and how we meet them or change our approaches to address them in some way or another. I recognize that's a really big ask, and I don't expect it to be an immediate thing, but I think it is part of looking at how we move forward. And I'm happy for you to tell me that I'm wrong because I trust you.
Thank you. Let's see, first, yes, and it's a little bit stealing Sam's thunder for next month to really focus in on finance, so I didn't this time.
Fair enough. I'm just impatient.
Yes, no, that's good, that's good. And second, yes, a meeting is not an outcome, and it is a little easy to slip into that, so we will take that as direction, but I have said that to my team as well.
I think I've heard you say that.
And then third, absolutely, the transit world has changed because the transportation world has changed because the world has changed. And we don't expect it to go back to exactly the way it was ever again, really. And so I am very eager to have those conversations about how things change. Some of that we have already done. Frequency still matters, reliability still matters. We have more frequency farther into the suburbs than we ever did in the past, partially because we got a bonus windfall from not having to serve a downtown that was so overwhelmingly demanding anymore after the pandemic. So there have been some things that in some ways have been good, even though it means somewhat lower ridership. It means more frequency in places where people in some ways need it more. But there is more we can do to understand the needs, truly dig underneath the kind of surface request and understand what the true need is. And yes, we look forward to that.
Director Graham?
Thank you. As I was reflecting on this more and thinking about the pillar of advancing TriMet's value to the region, what struck me is that there are elements of that that really go across the whole plan. And where we have been talking about wanting to elevate the story of how safe it is, wanting to elevate the story of TriMet as a major employer, wanting to elevate the story of TriMet as an agency that is actually in itself an economic driver and part of the economic solution for the future of our state. And so when we get together and kind of do a deeper dive, I would love to think about how that pillar really crosses all of them and how we're telling that story of the future about the agency and where we're going. Because I know the pieces are there, but I think to your point, this feels the least developed to me of all of them, and I think it's also our area of greatest opportunity.
Great, thank you, and definitely recognize that, you know, without being able to do kind of a 3D graphic of how these things fit together, it becomes an important means through which we meet the other goals. And the more we can flesh that out, and there is some work going on in the Public Affairs Division to better quantify our benefits to the region and be able to help tell that story. So we'll be able to bring that back in future months.
Any others? I did have one, just some curiosity and some questions and comments on your thoughts on the internal. You had noted, you know, the internal surveys and our staff, employees of TriMet. Somehow, it would be, I think, to the board's benefit to see a little bit more, like a deeper dive into those surveys, what they say, what departments. We do a lot of work, and you heard comments on our external pieces, our writers, but we hear very little about, I call it the navel gazing of, like Sam mentioned earlier, our heartbeat. How many arteries? Are those arteries pumping? Which arteries are shut down? Which arteries are on vacation? Those, you know, those numbers. I know. I'm very into, you know, visuals, visual learner here. But for lack of words of describing, I did not know we even had surveys going into our employees. I'm sure there's the basic and typical ones, but it'd be interesting to see their feedback and their thoughts. I know that the union is this distant, you know, kind of connected to the heartbeat, but it has its own areas. What feedback do you get, use, utilize, incorporate into the heartbeat, which then feeds out into the writers and running the agency? So just some thoughts for future education sessions on that information, if that made sense.
Yes, thank you. And just so you know, the results from that go back to individual executive directors, managers to help inform how they interact and communicate with their employees. So it is being used consistently throughout the agency.
If the board doesn't know, you're missing a point. So it's going the other way, but it would be helpful for us to know. or at least have some report, a few slides of what it means, what you're looking at, I think that'd be helpful. Yeah.
Thanks.
And Alan, we can accommodate that in educational sessions on that, so we'll take care of that. I just want to tell the board, thank you. You know, we're 6 days away from our new start of our new fiscal year, and I think you all have made it very clear our agency priorities, our strategic playbook, our comprehensive financial strategy that we're going to be talking about. Those things are coming, they'll roll from me. I'll be talking to you in the month of July. We'll start that conversation at the end of July going forward. The agency here over the next 30 days, we are in the process of resizing the agency, so all staff is going to be focused there. You can imagine the morale that we're going to be faced with as we move through that. And as we've came to you and your approval, there's 400 positions that we are going to eliminate from the agency, and there's 200 people that are going to be affected. So I just ask for a little bit of grace and space over the next 30 days, but we will be in front of you at the end of July in this conversation. And that concludes our report.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you for that report. And we, as a board, any ending comments? But we do look forward to July on moving forward in our new year. And thank you, Sam, for the work that you're doing and the work that you have coming up for the next couple of weeks. On that note, enjoy the weekend. Well,
It's Wednesday.
Right.
I love that time.
Thank you.
it's in the air. It's in the air. Whatever. Okay, announcement. It is Director Graham's birthday today. Yay! See, I was right.